Fairy Flag, I wrote the Fairy Flag because basically I was researching my clan. You know how people can go to tourist shops and they can buy these little books and it's all the different clans. So I went into one of these historical Scottish tourist shops and I bought, and they said, "What's your name?" I said, "Rory Nichol." And they said, "Well, Nichol, well, you're a MacLeod."
I knew vaguely of the legend of the Fairy Flag. I've been in Scotland for over 20 years, and so you come to Scotland and you're around, you kind of, and I like stories and I like to know folklore of a place, and I had heard of the legend of the Fairy Flag, never dreamed I'd have anything to do with the story.
And they had the little book all about the Clan MacLeod, so I picked up the little book and I started to read it. And there was a thing in the beginning of it that said Rory Moore's Horn. And my name's, Rory Moore Nichol, and I was like, Rory Moore's Horn. So, automatically it was exactly the spelling and everything, so I went into Google and had a little look and it came up with a picture of the Fairy Flag and Rory Moore's Horn. So I was like, what's the Fairy Flag?
According to the legend, 500 years ago, a fairy maiden married the clan chief of the MacLeods, and they had a baby together. And a year or so later, she has to go back to her world, and she has to leave her husband and her child behind. That hints at a great tragedy in the story. It just talked over ever so briefly as when you read the legend. You can read the legend in a minute.
So I started, going into the Fairy Flag, and then I started to find out about that. And then I realised nobody had written a book, nobody had done anything about the Fairy Flag. So it was really, really, really exciting because I just thought that this is a brilliant story, it's a brilliant idea, but there was only a little part of the story, and I thought, well, there must be more of the story than that, so I started to research a wee bit.
She has to leave this garment behind that will bring protection to her child, and then as the legend progresses, this becomes the flag of the Clan MacLeod. And during times of trouble and conflict for the clan, during times of battle, during times of famine, they can unfurl the flag and help will come supernaturally.
And I couldn't believe, I just kept putting the Fairy Flag into Amazon and Google, and I was like, there's no books, there's no DVDs, there's nothing, and wow, this is an ancient story, and yet nobody's picked up on it, so it was exciting.
Oh, the summer time it's coming, and the trees are sweetly blooming, and the wild mountain thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie? And we know
Marco came on board through another guy called Rod Christensen.
How did I meet Rory? I have a friend who is an actor.
Rod was Spencer in Balamory. I'm Spencer, that's my name.
And Rory was wanting to do something in the area of children's entertainment, because he had small children himself. And so he cast this particular actor friend of mine.
At the time I was doing a children's tour, like a children's stage show type idea, and it was called the Pallywags.
And I heard about this, and I said, and I called Rory up on the phone, and I says, Rory, I've been writing for my friend for most of his life, and is there any chance I could have the writing job on this particular children's project? Please, 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 please.
So, cut a long story short, Marco had said, look, have you got somebody to write the Pallywag show? I said, well, I'm writing. And he went, well, I'm a writer and I'm from Los Angeles. And he sold himself really, really well. And I said, okay, so we sat down. I said, well, maybe we could do something together and see what you've got. And I gave him the concept of the idea. He came back to me, and I'm not saying I liked everything he did, but there was really some bits of magic there. And so I took the bits of magic that he brought in on board, and then we wrote it together and kind of worked, and we kind of developed a kind of way of working on certain writing projects.
That's how we ended up starting to work together, and it branched on from the children's project to some books we did about the music industry, books about the whiskey industry, and books about and then this particular project came right in the middle of all that, the fairy flag.
That was going back now nearly 4 years ago. He's still there. So yeah, so we've wrote a few things together now, and
We've been collaborating together for a few years on different writing projects, and he said to me, look, there's this fantastic legend. It's never been done as a movie, it's never been done as a novel. Let's work on this. Right at the beginning, when Rory approached me with this project, I was like, I don't want to do a rehash of Braveheart. I don't want to go back in time. I'm scared of that. I don't want to get the history wrong. I'm scared of the history. I'm scared of offending everyone.
he was, you know, so anti it being Scottish. He was so anti the whole thing. And
if I do this on my own back, I'm going to offend the whole nation of Scotland. They're going to want to throw me out of the country after I get through.
I think the challenge for him being an American, and this is a Scottish thing, and it was all the terminology. And
Rory, if I have my way, the word dude will appear in the screenplay. Titania will say something like, dude, nice claymore.
So he was like, let's make it like Indiana Jones.
Let's not do a historical period piece. Let's do a modern retake. Huh? That's a good idea, right?
And I was like, no, let's not.
So I started writing a fairy flag story where the flag is found in modern times.
And I was like, no, let's keep it old. Let's keep it real, and no, let's make it Indiana.
It would be something like Indiana Jones would discover a mysterious fairy flag. I'm glad George Lucas never got his hands on the fairy flag.
So we had about a 3-4 week fight about it, and I won.
Yeah, this fairy flag story that I was writing in a modern day sense that ended up becoming this poor cousin to an Indiana Jones film just was not working.
And we made an ancient, went back to the original core, which at the time I fought really hard for, but as soon as the production began I really regretted, because I was sitting there going, where are we going to get all this old stuff from? So that was quite complicated. So
when we went back to the original legend, that's when the story started to work, because the story was there in place, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel and make up a brand new story for the fairy flag.
I think the relationship worked really, really well, everything, so it was good. It's a difficult process to work with someone that's not Scottish, though, on this particular project, because Marco being an American, it was some of the from the novel was great, relatively easy. Going into the script, it was much more difficult, because the terminology that he was using was
I need Scottish people to help me to make it authentically Scottish.
Instead of, I can't do that, it was like, yo man, you can't do that, so it was kind of all these kind of taking out all these kind of Americanisms that he'd put through it.
Wat Nickel took characters that I'd worked on and helped make them authentically Scottish. So did Rory. Between Rory and his dad, brought in the Scottishness that needed to happen.
I've had the privilege of writing a little part of the script. I say a little part because, it was entirely Rory's idea. It's a great story, fabulous story, intriguing story. He's got everything in it. He's got, It's got all the blood and thunder that the guys like, and it's got the romance that the girls like, and it's got a lot of history in it, and traditional, and wow. I mean, it's you asked me if I'd write a little bit of humour into some of the more serious, but some of the conversation between the established characters, which was quite a privilege. Marco and he have worked very tightly on a number of projects and have developed a style. So to allow this, my intrusion, if you like, was quite a compliment. Quite a compliment. You know, but you know, being his father, I would never like him to know I thought that.
and you know, from the script, it took 20 sort of drafts to go through. I mean, the first script was it was one-dimensional really, and then the second script came a wee bit better. You know, and it kind of you grow and you grow and you grow. So it was a big, long process, but.
I like writing with Rory. Rory is very challenging to me. He wants the best out of me. It's like, do this. This doesn't work. This works. He's very good at spotting things that are needed.
I sat with the script, and you know, we'd been writing the script for a long time, going back and forth and back and forth.
In this particular screenplay, we were coming up close to the near the casting point, where it's like we need to start casting people in the movie. Rory, please sign off on the screenplay. Please, can we do that now? Please.
And I sat down at one night and I was reading it. I'm going, wait a wee second here. There's no children in this movie at all. There's no elder people or older people in this movie at all.
I says, but there are children implied. We create a village. People, old people, young people. There's people in the background, but they're not the main characters. They're not the. He says, well, there needs to be the children fleshed out in the screenplay. And I was like, well, shake my head and kind of swallow my pride. I was like, okay, you're right.
I was sort of looking at it because it was just based on the leading characters and their fighters, and I said, you know. So then I came up with that. I went, we need a kid. We need to feature a kid going through this story. You know, we've got a love story, which is fine. We've got the violent thing, that's fine too. But we don't have a kid. You know, we need a kid. We need somebody, you know, that can sympathise.
And he was right. I hate to admit it because I argued with him till 3 a.m.
I created the character of Fury.
The character's kind of like a cheeky but charismatic young boy who thinks he's older than he actually is.
You know, it's an emotional character and a character that you grow to love through the movie. And I think that was, and then creating the elders, the elder community within the thing, that was enjoyable because they're funny. They look down on all the other people within the movie, and even Ian Breck McLeod, who's clan chief, he thinks he's all that, but the elders are looking at him going, oh, we were there 20 years ago, pal, you know. So I mean, the elders are funny, they're comical, and they don't really respect any of the fighters at all. They just kind of look at them as young laddies that are grown up. And
I had a gang of 4, myself, Shoris Wallace, Dave Winter, Alan Cuthbert. We were like the 4 guys at the team on 8 out of 10 cats, you know. We had good fun.
So I think the elders were probably the most fun to write because, you know, they had some really funny lines and you know, and fantastic characters with great stories attached to them, you know, so they were amazing to get behind.
I played the part of Ragnar, who was the elder statesman. Maybe not so elder statesman of the clan MacLeod. Ragnar being the meaning of the name is advisor to the ruler, apparently, from an Old Norse and Latin derivation, and so I was there to give young MacLeod, Ian MacLeod, the benefit of my wisdom.
I will build my love about yon pure and on it I will place the wild flowers of the mountain. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together.
The template of the story was not changed very much at all.
Part of the story was, the part of Titania and Ian Breck MacLeod, that was already on. I mean, people could research that on Google anyway. The other parts that were added to it, which was the fictional characters that you had to create, the Brother Togers and Young Fury and Gorham MacDonald and all these characters, and Rafe Cox.
I think the addition of Rafe Cox was the biggest change, because we needed a conflict.
These are all so that takes a bit of time to develop each character, and you've got to get into the actual who is the person, what do they do, what's their background, how do they fit into the story.
Ian needed these characters, as well as the community around Dunvegan Castle needed these characters. They needed friends. He needed supporters. He needed people he could bounce off with, people who could be a contrast to him. He's very serious and intense. Doogie is, as played by Scott Ironside, brings a comical intensity, as well as serious intensity, and even a romantic intensity to his supporting character of Doogie as one of Ian's best friends. But Doogie, as played by Scott, was and on purpose brought a certain levity.
Doogie is the best friend of Ian Breck MacLeod, the clan chief. He's also kind of like his bodyguard, but it's not like Ian needs a bodyguard. He's an enormous monster of a man. Doogie is a wild fighter, a hearty drinker. He's noisy, he's funny, he's a carouser of women. He's just a live wire. He's always switched on. If he's back at the castle or back with the clan, then it's parties and singing and dancing, and if he's on the battlefield, it's exactly the same energy. It's just everybody that faces the MacLeods is dead. But I really liked the script. I really liked. Once I found out what the fairy flag was, I went and researched the legend and found out that they were still using pictures of the flag in World War II to protect their pilots and stuff. Apparently, the legend goes or the story goes, that no MacLeod pilot was ever killed during World War II, because they all had pictures of the fairy flag for the clan chief. And if that's true, that's quite spooky.
In the original novel, was I created 4 friends for Ian, but 2 were really fleshed out. We had McGinn and Doogie really fleshed out. It was like, those are good characters. The other 2 characters even had their names changed. They needed to be fleshed out, and Rory's father helped with that process, and he created a wonderful character, Neverard, as played by Dave Finnegan.
Something that's so intense, but there wasn't a character there that I felt could really carry the humour, so we invented Neverard. He claimed to be a great lover, and he claimed to be a hard fighting man. How could you be a hard fighting man if you're Neverard? That was, and we won't go down the other avenue, but so Neverard came out of that discussion.
My character is he's a cousin of the chief, Ian MacLeod, and his father was MacLeod Scots and his mother was Irish.
He's a funny character, is Neverard, because he's one of them, but never really known what it was to grow up as one of them.
And he's brought up, and his mother kept him in Dublin to be educated, so he's pretty educated in Latin and Greek, and he comes over to the Isles to visit and gets caught up with all the action, the lads think that he can't fight because he's trained, and they sort of take the fun out of him with the Scots Gaelic, and he sort of like certain words, Pock Mahone, and he thinks it's a great word. He's saying it to the ladies. And he finds out later on that they've been on the battlefield, that they've been messing him about, and he lets loose. I think it's a fantastic story. I think it's has reality and the legend of the fairy, you know.
Oh, when the morning air tosses your hair, oh, when the midday sun
The legend
starts to
simply
tickle
says
the blood.
that a fairy maiden married the leader of the Clan MacLeod some 500 years ago. That's the template that we worked from. And we're going, what is that? What is this legend? How do we make this come alive? Titania is the heart of the story, the heart of the legend, the original legend as well, and so that needed to be extremely believable. I mean that's the main character of the whole screenplay and the whole movie, the whole novel, is Titania, along with Ian Breac MacLeod, and everyone else supports their story. And so Titania, to be a lead character, to be believable, she had to be this incredibly strong character. For a fairy to marry someone, they can't be Tinkerbell. They can't be two inches tall with wings.
As I have to play her. I have to play her. She's really strong. There's lots of layers, lots of strata, and she's strong. And there's so few of those parts going around. So, and I get to, whoop some ass. I get to hold a sword and some armory, and I get to kick some boys' butts. And I'm digging that.
When you're writing someone that is supposed to fall in love with your main character, Ian Breac MacLeod, and for him to fall in love with her, you as the audience and we as the writers had to fall in love with her as well. And so we wrote her as someone that I think we could all fall in love with.
She's ageless, and she's wonderful, and she, just like a fairy. She's like a butterfly that floats in and seems totally out of place, and yet you really miss her when she goes.
Ian is the driving passion, the force. He's the kind of the driving force of the whole plot of the novel and the screenplay.
So Ian Breac MacLeod has I guess he's kind of a strong character, and he's got a slightly sort of troubled past.
He's got a redemptive arc going on. There's a conflict within himself that needs to be resolved. The original legend hints at a love story. Clan chief marries a fairy maiden. Okay, how does that flesh out? If you just any love story that you see on screen, any love story that you read, if it's as simple as, "Hey, I like you, let's put on a Barry White album, let's get it on," that's boring. There needs to be some type of conflict. We thought the conflict needed to be within Ian himself. It's a complex character.
But, Titania was an intrigue. I mean, could you imagine any red-blooded fella? I mean, he's a big, handsome fella, and he looks like all us guys would like to look like. But along comes a female who wasn't just her physical presence, it was the intrigue she carried with her.
But he tries to do his best for the clan. Because he obviously makes a lot of sacrifices for them. He's always looking out for them. He's quite a proud man. Got a little bit of a temper there as well. He keeps under control, and he likes to have a good time, so he mixes with everyone really. It's quite a solid man, I guess.
What every man would want is a woman who has this era of mystique and it's romantic imagery and this really practical, like, if I don't like you, I'll fight you and kill you or be killed attitude that we had it in the Klansman, and yet here's this woman who intrigues him so much and he cannot put his finger on what it is, and it tortures him and intrigues him and delights him and excites him.
If you could say that Titania is the heart of the story and Ian Breoch MacLeod is the driving passion, the redemptive arc of the story, you could say that Brother Toger is the conscience of the story, the soul of the story. So, if you're wanting soul in a movie, you don't just need a Aretha Franklin in the soundtrack. You cast a great actor like Eugene Horan. He brought real soul to this soulful character.
He's not your typical monk, I don't think.
He's real kind of the moral center, the conscience of the story.
He's quick-tempered and has a wandering eye for the ladies. But I think he's a nice guy, and he's a kind heart.
The book was
when you don't feel strong and you're
almost semi.
just open your eyes
I
and
mean,
you'll
good story, but
see
lightweight in the respect.
smile
There's no
on
swearing on the book.
and you'll hear me in the
I mean,
words of a song.
You've got the
Flight of a
things like that
butterfly
there, but they don't go into
in the
enough
lands
detail.
as they play.
It's
I'll be
visual. Whereas people read a book, create their own visual in their head, and so it's too different. It's still the same story, but it's very much more into the characters, more in depth into that particular. Whereas in the book it mentions you see that person, you know who that person is and that character. So we had to really develop the script to see, we see a few swear words and things like that, and there's actually, anger and aggression, whereas maybe you thought it was. So it's all these kind of things had to be built in. So massive, much more detail, I would say. In the movie, you've got just the slang that you couldn't put in a book, because if someone reads it in America, they go, oh, what's that? But whereas in the movie, you can get away with that, and so it's be about yourself, Logan. You've got all these kind of slangy kind of, which is not in the book. You've got all that kind of knock away you and bile your chuckies. All that kind of Scottish humour that you just didn't have in the thing. So what you can get away with, like I say, you can put subtitles in a movie. You can't put subtitles in a book. So.
I heard the song that had been written, read the book that had been written. Loved the story, absolutely loved the story, and it's a very emotional song, and so I was intrigued by that. And then when he told me it was to be a movie, and he let me read the script.
I was working with a young artist called Tyree Hunter, and Tyree Hunter sang I asked her to sing the song The Fairy Flag. They were recording an album in the studio, and David Isaac, the director, had a little postcard in the studio saying, offering his services, and he made pop videos. And so I contacted David and I said, look, could you do a video for Tyree Hunter for Once Again?